How you doing? How you doing? Today we're going to be talking about Battlefield betas of the past. So with the Battlefield 6 beta coming to a close, what can we really expect from the game to come? Today I'm going to be using 4 rankings of older games to maybe give us an idea of what the new game may look like. I'm going to be using rankings such as the beta itself, how the game turned out afterwards. I'm going to be using the rankings of the gameplay, the story, and the overall reception of that game. Alright, let's get into it. Starting off strong, we have Battlefield Bad Company 2. Bad Company 2 was a really well-received game. I mean, truly. Bringing together older players and newer players was one of the biggest things it was praised on. And I'll tell you what, searching through older forums to find info like that from 2009 and 10 is insane. Now, back to what we're talking about. Battlefield Bad Company 2 was really, really well praised and was a great response to Call of Duty's Modern Warfare 2 at the time. So for the overall beta, I'll probably give it a 4 out of 5, just because there was some other things I could have worked on, but it's an older game and it's really hard to judge betas now to then. But I think a 4 out of 5 is really, really good rating for it, because there was some stuff they could have improved on, but they didn't really have a lot of glitches or anything like that I've seen through the forums that I've read. So I think overall a 4 out of 5 is a very solid rating. Now for the game, how it turned out after the beta, we have the gameplay itself. I think I'm going to give it still a 4 out of 5. That seems like a very fair rating for it. The gameplay is fun, it's fast-paced. I mean, it's a well put together game for the time. Next we have the story. Like the clip I showed in the start, the story was really well put together, and I mean, it was just had a lot of funny moments that we hadn't really seen from many Battlefield games, and I think it really, really helped with the ranking system on this game. Now the overall reception, if you look at Steam, it's overall very positive, but through other ranking systems, it has an 87 and other stuff like that. So I think for a fair rating, I should give it a 4.0. So 4 out of 5 is a very fair ranking for it, but overall had a really good score, and it was a really good game for the time.
Fucking cocksucking prick, yeah? Fucking play the game properly, you little shit.
Next we have Battlefield 3. The Battlefield 3 beta was really well received, from the polishedness of the gameplay and just the overall addictiveness of the game. Now I do have to harp on some of the graphical issues that were happening during the beta, and I don't think it's fair to the other games if I don't mention those. So I think for the beta itself, it deserves a 3.5 out of 5. Now, I will say it is a very good beta. From all the reviews I've read, it was a very good beta, but I just cannot go past the graphical issues without bringing those up in the actual rating and having it reflect. Now for the game post-beta though, I will give the actual gameplay with the less graphical issues a 4 out of 5, just because it's hard to give it a 5 out of 5 because there is always things you can fix, and it was a really good game. So I think 4 out of 5 is very good for the actual ranking. Now for the story itself, I'm going to give that a 3 out of 5, just because I think it was kind of a bland story, personally. Now, I mean, you don't have to agree with me, but I think it was just kind of a bland, cut and dry story. But that's from a 2025 perspective, then it could be much different. Now, the overall reception of the game was very high praised, very high praised. So I think for the reception, I'm going to give that a 5 out of 5, just because it's just so overwhelmingly positive.
Right below, like, you got, no, you missed him, you missed him.
Damn it!
Yeah.
Now you have one of my most exciting ones to say, Battlefield 4. Battlefield 4 was a very well received game through and through. The beta itself, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 compared to the rest of the betas, just for the fact that it was just such a groundbreaking game for the time. With the evolution of the actual maps and the destructibility that we see more and more in every Battlefield game, this was the start of it all. I mean, it was just such a well put together game and is such well received by the entire fan base, really. So for the beta, I do give it a 5 out of 5. Now for the gameplay itself, same thing, 5 out of 5. I might be a little biased on this one, but I do think this game was so well put together that it deserves that rating. The story itself, I'm also going to give a 5 out of 5. I mean, it's just a story that really, really got you into the game itself, and I think it deserves this ranking. And for the actual reception, same thing. This is going to be cut and dry, probably one of the highest rated Battlefield games of all time, just because of how well received it was, an all-around, well put together game.
IKEA, here we come.
Now for one of the hardest games that there's going to be to rate, Battlefield Hardline. Battlefield Hardline is really hard to rate because it has such a mixed bag of reactions that it feels hard to give it a bad ranking when it was just Battlefield trying to change it up, which we have seen not so long ago not go in the favor of the Battlefield franchise. Now, I do want to give the beta some praise for being different, but some criticism for feeling like Battlefield 4 again, but cops and robbers. So for the beta itself, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5, just because it felt like Battlefield 4 over again, but cops and robbers. I personally don't think it deserves that ranking, but I don't think I can really look past that. That's just Battlefield 4 with cops and robbers. Now, the actual gameplay itself, it did have a lot of really fun stuff added to it. So I think a 3 out of 5 for the actual gameplay is fair, just because I don't want my bias to get in the way of the actual ranking of this game. Now for the story, I'm going to give it a 3.5 because, like you've seen with this entire ranking of this game, it was different, it was new, but that's as much as you can give it. It was just kind of a really good idea that was done mediocrely. Now, the actual reception of the game, I'm going to give a 2, just because this game had the shortest life cycle of any of the Battlefields, and I feel like that's a fair ranking to give it, just with how short the game was till the launch of the next Battlefield game.
That's a tank.
Battlefield 1, probably one of the most visually pleasing games that we've ever seen from a Battlefield game. This game was so well received and high praised all through the beta and the actual game that it's going to be hard not to be biased rating it. So for the actual beta, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 just for the fact there was some balancing issues from the start, but they got ironed out later in the game's life cycle, which leads me on to the gameplay. The gameplay I'm going to give a 4.5 out of 5. I'm going to be a little biased here. It does deserve a 5 out of 5, but the user interface and the menus are so bad that it affected my gameplay. I hate to say that, but it affected my gameplay just because it was so clunky. So a 4.5 is what I'm going to have to give it. Now next we have the story itself. The story itself, I think, deserves a 5 out of 5 as well, just because it really tugged on your heartstrings through the whole thing. I mean, just so visually stunning, the music was perfect, everything about it was just so well done. A 5 out of 5 for the story seems more than fair. Now, last but not least, the actual reception of the game, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 as well. It was just such a well put together game. Probably one of the best games that we have in recent memory. Just so well done. I think these rankings are very fair for this game, just for how outstanding it was. Battlefield 5. This is a game of what could have been. Off launch, it did not seem to receive very high praise, but throughout the beta, it received high praise for just how well it looked. Same with Battlefield 1, very well looking game, but took away a lot of the weapon customizations that was already kind of griped about in Battlefield 1, but I didn't include because it didn't really pull on the gameplay as much. Now for the beta itself, I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. I think that's fair for this game, just because it did have a lot of problems off the launch to the later forms of the game. Now, I don't want that to drag too much onto the actual gameplay of the game. At the very start of the game, it probably deserved a 2, just because it was very one-sided, and I feel like it took a long time for it to actually grow into the Battlefield 5 that I remember so vividly playing in the later stages, such as the Pacific Front, which was released later into the game's life cycle. So the gameplay, I wish I could give a 4, but I think for just how bad it was off the launch, a 3.5, just like the beta, is more than fair. Now, going into the actual story of the game, if you're a history buff like me, the game was hard to play story-wise if you got past all the historical inaccuracies. Now, this is different from most other games because they don't have anything historical in them. Battlefield 5 had a very big problem with historical accuracies, just like Call of Duty Vanguard. But if you look past that, it was a very fun story mode. I think for my personal liking, I can't give it a 5, and I can't give it a 4.5. I'm going to give it a 4 just for historical inaccuracies. And for the overall reception, I'm going to give that a 3.5 just because how hard it was off the launch and how much it actually went up later on. It's hard to look past that rocky start it started off with. Battlefield 2042. This game's going to be very easy to rate just because how unliked it was. So the beta itself, I'm going to give it 2 out of 5. Pretty cut and dry. Gameplay, I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 5. They tried to do something different and new, and it was just not liked, and it was not really even Battlefield. It felt more like Apex Legends than it did even Battlefield. Next, the story didn't have one. I mean, come on, that's a Battlefield game, has a story mode. Every single Battlefield game should have a story mode. So that one I'm going to give it a 0. I know it's unfair, but this game was not well liked, come on. In the reception itself, 2 out of 5. Not absolutely disgusting. It was playable, it was fun sometimes, but I think a 2 out of 5 is very fair for this game. It was just not liked in the slightest. My final statements, I just want to say this was really fun to do. It was nice to go back and looking at old Battlefield games that I haven't played in years. I mean, I had a really fun time looking at all the old games I used to play. But if you guys didn't agree with me, leave a comment. I'll be happy to respond to it. And if you guys enjoyed the video, please subscribe. I'm trying to do more videos like this. I don't really have a bunch of releases, so if you enjoy this one, comment something else and I might do a video on it. Later, Gator.